You're welcome to Breakfast Central on this beautiful, terrific Tuesday. We have everything you need to kickstart your day the right way. Insightful conversations, news headlines, and everything in between to make you have a very informed day. So sit back, relax, grab your coffee. Let's get started. This is Breakfast Central. I am Benga Aporowa.
And it feels really good to be back on the air. I am Joe Hansen, welcoming you on a Tuesday morning. It's day 2. Yesterday, the conversations were very, very insightful and interesting. And there's so much going on in the social media space. Netizens are indeed talking tough. No wonder we do have what Nigerians are saying in the course of today's programming. But first off, just as Benga said, we couldn't have done it anywhere else without having you join us here on Breakfast Central. We're going to start off first with our wake-up conversations on a Tuesday morning. It's got to do with the trending story. It was given till 3 p.m. yesterday, which happened to be Monday, and the sum of 100 million naira was indeed what the kidnappers were asking for. What are we talking about? Well, we're talking about the abducted Afenifere youth leader as he continued to beg Nigerians to contribute for his release. The sum of 100 million naira ransom. Now, he's the national president of the Afenifere National Youth Council, Prince Eniola Ojajuni. Now, he's asked well-meaning Nigerians like yourself to contribute so that he can be released. The youth leader was kidnapped on Monday, February 17, 2025, by unknown kidnappers. Of course, the kidnappers wouldn't be known. But then again, many have said that it wasn't done in a style that's quite regular. So let's take a look at this video. But I must warn you, this video could be very disturbing, especially for a Tuesday morning.
Hello, good evening. Shifolushola, okay. Shifolushola, okay. Barrister Bradek Boruye, Barrister Sam Iwaya, and all Elijah lawyers. Jajuni, Bode Karaki or Jajuni, my big brother, Bensi Oja Karaki, Badakunle Karaki, all Jajuni sons and daughter, help me. They'll give me 3 p.m. tomorrow. They'll give me 3 p.m. tomorrow. That they will kill me tomorrow. Nigerians, help me. Your 100,000, 50,000. 1 million will go a long way to save my life. My name is Prince Eniola Ojajuni. God bless you. Aderomu, please help me to spread this video. My Nigerians, help me. Your 100,000, 50,000, 1 million will go a long way to save my life. My name is Prince Eniola Ojajuni.
A very, very disturbing video there. One would wonder that in 2025, Nigeria is still struggling with such situation. Well, don't forget that Nigerians were also asking if he was calling for help and contributions, how were they supposed to make that contribution? Was there going to be a bank account? Who were they going to give the money to? And we do know that he mentioned a certain name and asked him to please help on his behalf. Benga,
I mean, very
worried situation.
Heart-wrenching situation. Nobody should go through this. And it's very sad because I'm sure when we were growing up, we had kidnapping wasn't even in the Nigerian lexicon. And this has almost become a regular thing. And I believe we're still we're handing kidnappers with kid gloves. That's where a person like Evans would even have the audacity to ask for a plea bargain that, you know, he's gone to school and blah, blah, blah. Kidnapping is as equivalent to murder because you torture these people, you put them through the worst psychological torture, and you still extort money from their families, and at the end of the day, some of them end up being killed. So the death sentence you apply to kidnappers, and there should be a zero tolerance policy for kidnapping. That video is just heart-wrenching. Imagine the pains the family members are going through, his loved ones, begging for his life.
It's sad.
It's terrible.
I mean, he was given till 3 p.m. yesterday, which happened to be Monday. We've been following this story very closely. There hasn't been any update yet. The kidnappers have said that if they are not able to realize the sum of 100 million naira, that they would actually unalive him. That's where the story, indeed, that's where the update has stopped. But we're following the situation. We're also ensuring that if there's any update, would follow through, dig carefully. But just to wrap this up before you go to the next wake-up conversation, Benga, Nigerians are asking what has happened to the BVN and the NIN, because he's talking about everybody contributing. So where are they going to contribute the money to? That's question one. Is there going to be a bank account where everyone is expected to put the money in? And what are the processes of taking this money to wherever he is, because his location, he cannot be found? So there are counter questions, and even the kidnappers themselves might also have questions they want to ask themselves, because they're asking a contribution of 100 million naira. Nobody knows who the kidnappers are and how they expecting to get this money. It's been done in times past where we see videos come up like this, and then later on monies are paid. Sadly, in most cases, the person is either gotten back alive or sometimes it's unalived and dumped somewhere. So, I mean, our hearts are indeed aching, and we hope that nobody should go through this.
And we really hope he returns to his family soon. Yeah. And yes, but moving away from that, still on our wake-up conversations this morning, Nigerians want good roads, hospitals, and schools, but avoid taxes, says the Senate President, Senate President Godswill Akpabio. The President of the Nigerian Senate on Monday, Godswill Akpabio, taunted Nigerians for being quick to demand better infrastructure, but showing almost unanimous resistance when the topic of taxation arises. Akpabio made the observation on a two-day public hearing on tax reform bills, stating that many Nigerians want the benefits of a functional system, but are unwilling to contribute through taxes. Senate President Godswill Akpabio has a way of generalizing, and that's why last week he said, you know, 99% of Nigerians, or 99% of things that are said on social media are false and fake. And today he's saying most Nigerians want to avoid taxes, and I don't think that is true. We are law-abiding citizens, we pay our taxes. Nigerians demand better accountability from their politicians, and they want good roads and hospitals. About those that have been paying, they also deserve this. So I think it's very wrong for this. I think it's wrong for the Senate President to say this.
That's right. I mean, he also said that about 30 million Nigerians, about 30%, many have said that it's a huge percentage of Nigerians don't pay their taxes. That's why he's saying that if you want what is good, you have to ensure that you pay your taxes. But on the flip side, if you come on and look very carefully and closely, Binga, especially to our viewers, there has been monies. Let's talk about the taxes that have been paid all through the years. Nigerians are saying, what has the federal government done with them? You wonder why Nigerians are jackbuying, let's use that word for want of another word, a popularity, in terms of the fact that Nigerians do leave their own country and go to another country. They try to establish themselves there, you know, start up a new life, and then, you know, get things going. But one of the reasons why Nigerians leave Nigeria to other countries like the UK, London, name them, everywhere, just name them. It's because they say they have an organized system. So when you pay taxes in these countries, be it Australia, Germany, you see what your taxes are being used for. In Nigeria, we're not saying that Nigerians shouldn't pay taxes, but the taxes that have been paid in times past, Binga, from our fathers' fathers, up until now that we still pay, we have so much levies here and there. What is it being used for? I happen to be a victim of a witness. Let me say, I happen to be a witness just a few hours ago where we did lose a loved one, and driving around the hospitals, even finding morgues to deposit a dead body is a problem. We don't have enough morgues. So these are conversations that many would wonder, do they look into these things?
I think it's very insulting to the sensibilities of Nigerians to just make that blanket statement that, you know, Nigerians want good things and avoid taxes. There's a trust deficit between the government and the people. There's a disconnect. Nigerians have been paying taxes all this while. They're oil majors, they're private companies. What are they using this monies for? And they feel, you know, politicians just use this money to subsidize their offices and their lifestyle, and then ask the common man to pay more and more. And there are also other ways of multiple taxation. We're not even talking about that. The local government across board, they're really choking small and medium enterprises who are just trying to get by. So the Senate President should really feel the pulse of the people and deliver the dividends of democracy, make service delivery excellent, and also provide the infrastructure for them to thrive.
Absolutely. Well, these are wake-up conversations that we're looking at on a Tuesday morning. Well, one last one, it would be one that we wouldn't want to ignore in a hurry. Well, while others are indeed reacting to some of the statements that has been made by former Kaduna Governor, well, we would want to focus on one that was equally made some times past. Now, if you recall that in times past, we did see, the former Kaduna State Governor gave his full support to the current sitting President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
They were friends.
Even though, there seems to have been, they seem to have hit a brick wall in terms of their relationship. But a video has also emerged where it was indeed touting the former governor to become at least a ministerial nominee, and then, of course, before things went south. Well, let's take a look at that video.
Nigeria needs thinkers and doers. And that is, I'm openly begging Nasir El-Rufai not to run away for additional degree excuse. He's going to Cairo, PhD and everything. There are lots of educated relics. We are not going to let you run away. Your vision, creativity, and resiliency in turning a rotten situation to a bad one is necessary at this critical time. That is why we are here today.
Well, I think we're just going to leave it there, okay? If you juxtapose what's been happening now, what's been said in comparison to what you just saw in that video, you might want to start thinking, are politicians really true? What's really the bone of contention concerning the enmity that has been set or cast that's caused a divide between the president and, of course, his friend, a former governor, and, of course, one who is known to talk very, very well.
And talking is what he's been doing a lot these days. It's in the news every other day. But there's a saying that in politics, there's no permanent friend or permanent enemy, only permanent interest.
Absolutely.
So you can fill in the gaps.
Absolutely. That's what we see there. But anyway, that's all in our wake-up conversations this morning. And we do hope that you are ready to join us, because we're about to go full throttle into the next aspect of the program. If you just tuned in, this is Breakfast Central. Feel free to follow us on all socials, like, share, and also drop a comment or two. Let's know what you feel or what you think about the stories we're about to bring to you. And talking about the stories, let's take a look at the top stories on a Tuesday morning. Today on Tuesday, Sowore challenges EFCC officers barring court premises. It's a conversation that's still ongoing, and we do have Sowore who will join us here. Economic rebasing, are food prices really dropping? How much is the tuber of yam? You can answer that for yourself. Fuel scarcity looms as IPMAN gives federal government ultimatum over 100 billion naira debt. And we'll take a look at the tax reform bill. Stakeholders debate the Senate's public hearing. That's where Fabio make that statement on Nigerians not willing to pay tax. And of course, the front pages are burning hot on fire. We'll take that too in the second hour. But let's first bring to you breakfast headlines after the break. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Let's bring to you breakfast headlines this morning. We begin definitely in Rivers State here in Nigeria. 5 federal lawmakers from Rivers State who support Governor Siminalayi Fubara have called on the state lawmakers loyal to former Governor Nyesom Wike, led by Martins Amawule, to stop parading themselves as members of the Rivers State House of Assembly. The lawmakers made their statement during a solidarity visit to the Victor Okojombo-led assembly on Monday, barely a week after pro-Wike federal lawmakers paid a similar visit to Amawole Assembly. The visiting National Assembly members included Awaji Inombek Abiante, Boma Goodhead Boniface Emerengwa, Alison Anderson Ibix, and Manu Chim Umezurike. Speaking on behalf of the caucus, Abiante outlined the purpose of the visit. Well, let's also tell you that Lucky Aiyedatiwa has been sworn in as the governor of Ondo State, marking the beginning of his first full 4-year term after succeeding Governor Rotimi Akeredolu, who passed away in 2023. In his address, Aiyedatiwa expressed gratitude to the people of Ondo State for their trust and reaffirmed his commitment to fulfilling campaign promises. He emphasized key priorities such as infrastructural development, economic growth, job creation and security enhancement across the state. A swearing-in ceremony took place on Monday at the Ondo State Sports Complex in Akure, 2 months after Aiyedatiwa secured victory in the governorship election under the banner of the All Progressives Congress. Well, away from that, a serious face-off ensued at the gate of the Federal High Court Abuja Monday when police officers and EFCC officials attempted to prevent activists and convener of the Take It Back movement, Omoyele Sowore, from entering the court premises. Sowore insisted that the officers had no right to prevent him from entering the court premises to conduct his business. He told the officers that they were not court officials and as such had no business denying him access to the court. The heavy presence of police and EFCC officials of the court's gate was linked to the arraignment of former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello, who has an ongoing case with the Commission over alleged financial misappropriation. In a video posted on his X-handle, Sowore claimed that the Nigeria's justice system had been hijacked by uniformed security agents, including the Department of State Security Services, Police and Civil Defense. Well, this is the confrontation that you can see there on the screen. And finally, members of the #EndBadGovernance protest movement have called on the Department of State Services to drop all charges against one of their members, Khalid Aminu. They accuse the DSS of persecuting Aminu, whom they claim is being victimized for speaking out about his detention experience following the 2024 End Bad Governance protests. The group spoke during a press conference in Abuja condemning the action by the DSS, saying that the service is in breach of constitutional procedures and are attempting to deny Aminu from exercising his fundamental rights to free speech. And that's all the news we have for you this morning here on Breakfast Central. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll go straight into our conversation. Stay with us. We do have a lot to share with you.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Now, following the rebasing of Nigeria's economy by the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, News Central Television visited markets in Abuja and Nasarawa State to verify the cost of foodstuff, which the federal government says have come down. News Central's Sagir Ibrahim spoke to traders at the Tile Community New Orange Market and the Zuba Foodstuff Market to find out how much relief traders and consumers are really getting. Let's take a look.
We're at the Taal Orange Market here in Mararaba, outskirts of Nasarawa State, just a few minutes away from the city center, the Federal Capital Territory. The objective here is simple: to ascertain the prices of commodities in this market as compared to the previous year, 2024. Come along with us.
At first glance, market stalls look as busy as ever. Shoppers move from one vendor to another, inspecting goods, bargaining and stocking up on essentials. However, beneath the usual hustle and bustle, one question remains: are food prices really coming down? Our survey reveals that staples like rice, beans, spaghetti, flour, and cooking oil have indeed dropped in price, offering some relief to consumers.
The price of the mudu of the beans is 2,000 naira for now, but as of last year, we said 3,305 up to 4,000 naira per mudu. Gari last 2 years, I was buy gari for 300. But as of last year, we buy 1,500, but now we are buying 800, 1,000.
Like last year, we sell it 30,000. This is Bankosi. You're expanding and eating anyone way you like. So last year, we sell it 30,000, but this year, we sell it 18,000. 10 pieces, 18,000. But so the things come down now.
Customers and traders in the market seem to be saying the same thing now, especially when it comes to perishable products like tomatoes, pepper and onions. Now, some of them have said that the prices of these commodities have come down. So while there's been a reduction somewhat in the prices of some commodities like rice, beans, millet, there's also been an increase in the prices of other commodities like fresh pepper, which has gone upwards of even 120 to 130,000 naira per bag.
Even this pepper by this now, I think don't reach 2 weeks like model like that. Now so they say pepper don't cost.
We sell previously at around 75,000 naira for a big carton and sell the small carton at between 55,000 naira to 60,000 naira. But at the moment, we sell the big carton at between 90,000 to 95,000 naira and the small carton goes for 65,000 naira. However, since we are entering the heat season, we are hopeful that the price will drop.
It's still there as it did before because up to now we're selling meat kilo 6,000 before 5,500, but now 6,000.
For many shoppers, the price drop on certain items is a welcome change, but with rising costs in other areas, the financial strain is far from over.
Today, to be sincere, everything, the price is a bit down compared to last year, but not all commodity. When you go to meat is higher, and there's no how we can do without meat and fish.
Relatively to some items, I can mention few like yam, beans, and other few commodities. There is a decrease in the prices from between last year and this year. I can remember I bought beans 2,800, 2,700 at the end of last year, but now I'm buying the beans today at 2,002, 2,003.
Oh, honestly, the prices are very, very okay compared to last year, because I know last year too was fasting when I came to this market. With my 50,000 naira, I was unable to buy a basket of tomatoes, but to my greatest surprise, the biggest size of basket of tomatoes this morning, I got it at the rate of 23,000. The most expensive thing now in this market is only pepper.
While the government hopes that economic rebasing will stabilize food prices, many Nigerians are still waiting for real, lasting relief. Citizens are hoping that reduced inflation on paper will soon translate into cheaper foodstuff at the market and better purchasing power for many Nigerians. In Nasarawa for News Central, I'm Sagir Ibrahim.
Very, very insightful reports there by a man, Sagir. Well, the food prices have come down, not on all of them, but on some of them, which Nigerians have said it's a welcome development. It also shows that Nigerians will be able to eat. But Benga, aside from the food prices coming down, the question also is there enough funds to purchase these food items?
Exactly. They have the purchasing power in the first place. But like I said, I'm an optimist. I would rather see the cup half full than empty. It's a welcome development. Let's hope it keeps coming down, because Nigeria has a way of defying the laws of physics, because there used to be a saying that anything that goes up in Nigeria never comes down. We've seen that we've changed that. The price of petrol was at some point 1,002 in some parts of the country. Now we can buy it as low as 925, which is really still very high compared to what we knew.
Yes, and Dangote is looking at bringing it down to 890, which is also sparking a lot of conversation as well.
And of course, we'll be looking at those conversations in the course of the program this morning. But let's hope more things come down, and states should also implement the minimum wage, because we need a living wage, not just the minimum wage.
I agree. Minimum wage is one thing. But then again, another thing is, if the minimum wage does come, would you use all the minimum wage to get food?
Exactly.
There's also healthcare there. There's education. School is in session. I mean, there's a lot. But talking about a lot, let's take it to the judiciary, which happens to be one of our major conversations, especially sparking from what took place yesterday when activist Omoyele Sowore decided to visit the Federal High Court. So, in a dramatic show of force, operatives from the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, took control of security at the Federal High Court in Abuja yesterday as the trial of former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello resumed. The EFCC agents, armed with various firearms, blocked one of the major roads leading to the court complexes and deployed trained dogs and other security equipment at the court entrance. Lawyers and litigants attempting to enter the court were subjected to extensive security checks, with some turned away at the entrance.
Now, convener of Revolution Now, Omoyele Sowore, confronted some of the officials of the Nigerian Police Force and Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, for preventing him from entering the premises of the Federal High Court. Sowore told the officers that he was not former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello, who has an ongoing case with the Commission over alleged financial misappropriation.
Oga, please. Oga.
Good morning, how are you now?
Oga. Hey, Oga.
Say, who are you shouting? Who is that? Do I look like Yahaya Bello to you? I beg, go and sit down. Go and sit down. Hey, what's that? What's that? What's that? What's that?
Hello, good day, sir.
Yes.
I'm a police officer. Please
so what?
Come out.
I'm not coming out.
Who are you? Can I know you?
I have a business in court.
Okay, please.
No, I'm not coming out. I'm not coming out. You can't clear me.
Hello,
you are not an officer of the court.
Hello, sir.
You are an EFCC officer.
Hello, sir.
You have no business standing in front of the court.
I'm talking to you now.
So why is he jumping at me?
Hello, good morning, sir.
Yes.
Please, what can I do for you?
This is a federal high court.
Yes.
Bring a court official. I'll talk to the person.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm a policeman.
Or you have a senior. How are you?
Fine.
You are not a court official.
I'm a policeman.
You are allowed EFCC to be flying at people in court. That's what the nonsense the DSS does here too.
Sorry.
It's not taking it easy now. They are the ones who bring us to court. EFCC for that matter. Yes. There's no issue. I have a court case. Please. Leave the road. Hey, don't touch me. Don't touch me.
I'll restrict you.
You can't restrict me.
I do that. That's no order given to me.
There's no order given to you that can prevent me from going to. You can't. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. No, I'm not going to call anybody to tell you a case I have. No, you have no right. You have no right to prevent me from attending to my case at the Federal High Court. You don't have any right to stay in front of the Federal High Court.
Which case do you have?
Regardless of who you are.
Which case do you have?
I'm not going to tell you my case. You are not my lawyer. You are not my lawyer.
You are free.
Stop your foolishness. You are not my lawyer.
Well, yeah, the events surrounding yesterday's trial has sparked concerns among lawyers and litigants who are questioning the need of such a heavy presence. Now, joining us this morning, we have a senior advocate of Nigeria and principal partner at Ubani and Co., Dr. Monday Ubani, and we hope to have the convener of Revolution Now, Omoyele Sowore, join us during the course of the program. Good morning to you, Dr. Ubani, and thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, my brother. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Now, from a legal standpoint, do agencies like EFCC and the police have a right to prevent people, including activists like Sowore, from accessing federal high courts, or was this a clear violation of his right?
Yeah, let me be very straight about this. The court premises is a public place in the first place, and the law allows outsiders, members of the public, to observe court proceedings. In fact, one of the reasons why people believe in the judiciary is the issue of instilling confidence confidence in the sense that people are allowed to watch what goes on in the court, to ensure that people who are brought before the court are given what you call fair hearing. There is this atmosphere of freedom that should exist within the judiciary. This issue of preventing lawyers and litigants from having access to court started when I think it was the trial of Nnamdi Kanu and Zaki. I remember those cases were regarded as prime crime, terrorism act, and all that, and treasonable acts. So they felt maybe there may be instances where their supporters may likely come to cause confusion and probably release the accused person. I mean, I don't know whether they usually have an intelligence report concerning that. DSS always do it whenever the trial of those people goes on. I mean, are going on in the court, in the Federal High Court, especially at Abuja. They usually barricade the entrance, and before you come in, you have to show either your identity card or introduce yourself so that they can know what you are coming for. But we have always felt that this kind of treatment and practice is clearly anti-democracy. It doesn't show that there is freedom within the court premises for members of the public to observe proceedings. What happened was, okay, but of course, when you are being accosted, most of the time you have to also be civil with them and explain who you are and what you are going to the court to do. But most times you end up, having argument, with them, and some of them also can be very unfriendly, forgetting that the court premise is supposed to be a place where lawyers and litigants should have a free access. So I'm not too happy with what transpired there, where Sowore, who is...
All right, Dr. Ubani, are you there? Oh, we do understand that it seems to be a little connectivity issue there, but let's see if that can be resolved. But we did get his point. Dr. Ubani there is saying that we shouldn't have that much security presence, especially at the Federal High Court. It should be a place where people can walk in freely, especially if you're a citizen of a country like Nigeria, where you can walk in freely. In Shore's case, he had said that he had a case in court and he was going there. But then again, there's so many questions to ask, and hopefully we can also get Shore to join us very, very soon so we can have this conversation ongoing. But Dr. Ubani, if you're there with us, one of the questions we also want to ask is this. Many are worried, especially looking at the constant presence of security operatives, especially in cases that has got to do with government or governors. But when it's got to do with cases where you have, let's say, permit me to use for want of words, ordinary Nigerians, you don't find security presence there. You don't see them there. Are we starting to see a different case or a different method that is being applied for, the governors, those who are at the top, the echelons, and then nothing for the common Nigerian? How do we balance this? How do we play this book?
Yeah, let me not speculate. It's also very important that in an interview like this, you bring an official of any of the security agencies that actually have cultivated this habit of preventing litigants and lawyers from having access to whenever a politically... One, we need to find out from them, is it based upon security report? Is there an intelligence report that may likely, there may be likelihood of invasion on the court by thugs or criminals? What is actually the idea behind barricading the court whenever politically exposed individuals are being tried? And such behavior is not being extended to when an ordinary citizen is also being tried. Is it because of the gravity of the offense? These are issues, that one would want to find out from them. Is it the gravity of the offense? Is it the status of the individual? Or is it because, this individual, will attract thugs who may likely invade the court in order to release him or release her So what is actually the idea behind? They will be in a better position to tell members of the public, because that is the issue of accountability, and the press owes the responsibility in bringing any of the officials, especially those who are in their media department, to tell Nigerians why they do what they do. What is the idea behind anytime a politically exposed individual is being tried, then members of the public, and especially lawyers, are usually being prevented from having access to
Okay. Seem to be having some connectivity issues with Dr. Ubani's line. But Dr. Ubani, are you there with us? Okay, Dr. Ubani, if you can hear...
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you now. We have connection back. Now, Dr. Ubani, earlier in your opening statement, you did say, the courts are open for Nigerians to observe proceedings. It's a place that shouldn't be militarized, so to speak. Now, we also have journalists that their beats, they cover the judiciary as their beat. If someone is unlawfully blocked from entering court premises by security operatives, what legal options do they have, and how should they approach such situations? Because even lawyers, which, the court is almost like their office, that's where they go to work most times, like you said, are prevented from entering court. So how do we stop this sort of situation from repeating itself, and what legal options do they have?
Yes, apart from legal option, which I will discuss subsequently, later now, I also feel that we should be able to draw the attention of the leaders or the heads of these various security agencies of what is presently playing out in our judiciary, where they usually prevent lawyers and litigants and members of the public from having access to the court. The court is a public place, we all agree. We also agree that people should go in there and watch proceedings. And then that instills confidence in the members of the public concerning our judicial sector that nothing hidden is going on there. So that interaction, that education, that advocacy must be continuous in order to really educate them that they have, unless there is a better reason, which we are yet to know why they do this. The leadership of these security agencies should be engaged, in a very constructive manner in order to tell them what dangers, they are posing by preventing members and lawyers from having access whenever any politically exposed individual is being tried. That is the first option. The second option is, you have a right of freedom of movement. You have a right of freedom of movement as a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The moment that a right is breached, you have a right to enforce the fundamental human right, engage them in a fundamental human right proceeding against any person that actually obstructs your free movement. So one can go to court. But my problem with court is the slowness of the proceeding. And most times when you go to court, if it is a court in Nigeria where you go within a short time, you'll be able to get a matter heard and disposed of, one can advise, certainly you have a right to sue, that your freedom has been abridged. But I also think that somebody has to do that. In the light of this becoming now a normal practice, in our court, where people are prevented from having access whenever politically exposed individual is being tried. I think lawyers and members of the public can also initiate this particular proceeding. Perhaps that will help in really drawing the attention of leadership of the security agency that this is not right, that there is a fundamental human right that is being trampled upon by their subordinates whenever there is any court proceeding involving a highly placed Nigerian in the court. So that may be the option. Engage them in serious advocacy, engage them in getting the reason why they are doing what they are doing and all that. That's what I think. And then going to court, maybe, to really see what the court will make by way of pronouncement concerning the right of those who have access to court but who have been prevented from having access.
All right. Well, this conversation would not be complete, just as you've mentioned. Well, we do also will be reaching out to one of these security operatives. Hopefully, we thought one would be able to join us this morning, but we do have the convener of Revolution Now, Movement, Omoyele Sowore, who joins us. Good morning, and thank you so much for being here. We did start off this conversation with your encounter in that video with the security operatives, and prevention of going into court is one thing, and you also speaking tough to the security operatives is another, because many have separated these two, especially on the social media space. But can you share with us what really transpired after that video ended? Were you eventually allowed to go to do your business of the day? And when you were coming back, was there any altercation again?
Well, I was allowed eventually, because what had happened is that I've been a regular at the Federal High Court for the last 6 years, particularly since 2019, when I was falsely accused and charged for treason. And as of 2-3 weeks ago, I was also charged for cybercrime for calling the Inspector General of Police illegal. So I know the court very well. I know the inside and outside of the court. In fact, I know that whenever someone is politically exposed or is a heavy-duty litigant in the place or accused person, they can bring you through the back, through the judge's elevators, a bunch of bank of elevators at the back. So when I was there also last week when Nnamdi Kanu's trial was taking place, I had expressed my concern. I've always expressed my concern that the DSS in particular have no right to take over the premises of the High Court. Not only do they do that, they also take over the job of the Federal High Court officials, including collecting from them what is known as cost lists, which list out all the cases, and then verifying and vetting them, harassing lawyers, harassing other litigants. That happened even 2 weeks ago. And yesterday, clearly, I had to go apply to get my passport back because the judge had asked that I deposit my passport. And when I arrived, I saw them, and I even asked before entering the court premises what was going on, because there was heavy security present, and they said it was Yahaya Bello trial. So I didn't see any big deal about Yahaya Bello's trial for stealing 80 billion naira, and except that they were just showing off. But even that was the case. The court has its own set of security men and women who are composed of DSS, police, and the civil defense people. The court also has its own peculiar security officials who wear light brown and black clothes. So there are plenty of them. But because of impunity, what they do whenever they have these cases, DSS or EFCC, I've never seen the NDLA do it, they'll just brush aside all those people and they start acting as they like within the court premises. And this is despicable, and I've always hated it, because I'm not just somebody who has been present in these courtrooms. I have been abducted within a courtroom before, and the judge's life was threatened by the DSS. So we cannot continue to have impunity reign in our land. We cannot continue to allow people to take laws into their hands because they wear uniform. We can't allow for the desecration of the premises of justice system, the courts. That is why I took it upon myself to address them yesterday as critically as possible, that this would not be allowed again. Of course, you asked, did they accept me to go in? Yes, I was allowed to go in. I went to do my business. And when I came out, they had comported themselves to the extent that I even came out again and got another person in who they had delayed at the gate, who had a business also. That was Speed Darlington. So this is what has been going on in our courts, and it is time not only for the court leadership to address this, but for even the law.
Litigants and lawyers from having access to whenever a politically one we need to find out from them, is it based upon security report? Is it an intelligence report that may likely there may be likelihood of invasion on the court by thugs or criminals? What is actually the idea behind barricading the court whenever politically exposed individuals are being tried? And such behavior is not being extended to when an ordinary citizen is also being tried. Is it because of the gravity of the offense? These are issues, that one would want to find out from them. Is it the gravity of the offense? Is it the status of the individual? Or is it because, this individual will attract thugs who may likely invade the court in order to release him or release her. So what is actually the idea behind? They will be in a better position to tell members of the public, because that is the issue of accountability, and the press owes the responsibility in bringing any of the officials, especially those who are in their media department, to tell Nigerians why they do what they do. What is the idea behind anytime a politically exposed individual is being tried, then members of the public, and especially lawyers, are usually being prevented from having access to
Okay. Seem to be having some connectivity issues with Dr. Ubani's line. But Dr. Ubani, are you there with us? Okay, Dr. Ubani, if you can hear...
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you now. We have connection back. Now, Dr. Ubani, earlier in your opening statement, you did say, the courts are open for Nigerians to observe proceedings. It's a place that shouldn't be militarized, so to speak. Now, we also have journalists that their beats, they cover the judiciary as their beat. If someone is unlawfully blocked from entering court premises by security operatives, what legal options do they have, and how should they approach such situations? Because even lawyers, which, the court is almost like their office, that's where they go to work most times, like you said, are prevented from entering court. So how do we stop this sort of situation from repeating itself, and what legal options do they have?
Yes, apart from legal option, which I will discuss subsequently, later now, I also feel that we should be able to draw the attention of the leaders or the heads of these various security agencies of what is presently playing out in our judiciary, where they usually prevent lawyers and litigants and members of the public from having access to the court. The court is a public place, we all agree. We also agree that people should go in there and watch proceedings. And then that instills confidence in the members of the public concerning our judicial sector, that nothing hidden is going on there. So that interaction, that education, that advocacy must be continuous in order to really educate them that they have, unless there is a better reason, which we are yet to know why they do this. The leadership of these security agencies should be engaged, in a very constructive manner in order to tell them what dangers, they are posing by preventing members and lawyers from having access whenever any politically exposed individual is being tried. That is the first option. The second option is, you have a right of freedom of movement. You have a right of freedom of movement as a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The moment that a right is breached, you have a right to enforce the fundamental human right, engage them in a fundamental human right proceeding against any person that actually obstructs your free movement. So one can go to court. But my problem with court is the slowness of the proceeding. And most times when you go to court, if it is a court in Nigeria where you go within a short time, you'll be able to get a matter heard and disposed of, one can advise, certainly you have a right to sue, that your freedom has been abridged. But I also think that somebody has to do that. In the light of this becoming now a normal practice, in our court, where people are prevented from having access whenever politically exposed individual is being tried, I think lawyers and members of the public can also initiate this particular proceeding. Perhaps that will help in really drawing the attention of leadership of the security agency that this is not right, that there is a fundamental human right that is being trampled upon by their subordinates whenever there is any court proceeding involving a highly placed Nigerian in the court. So that may be the option. Engage them in serious advocacy, engage them in getting the reason why they are doing what they are doing and all that. That's what I think. And then going to court, maybe, to really see what the court will make by way of pronouncement concerning the right of those who have access to court but who have been prevented from having access.
All right. Well, this conversation would not be complete, just as you've mentioned. Well, we will be reaching out to one of these security operatives. Hopefully, we thought one would be able to join us this morning, but we do have the convener of Revolution Now, movement, Omoyele Sowore, who joins us. Good morning, and thank you so much for being here. We did start off this conversation with your encounter in that video with the security operatives, and prevention of going into court is one thing, and you also speaking tough to the security operatives is another, because many have separated these two, especially on the social media space. But can you share with us what really transpired after that video ended? Were you eventually allowed to go to do your business of the day? And when you were coming back, was there any altercation again?
Well, I was allowed eventually, because what had happened is that I've been a regular at the Federal High Court for the last 6 years, particularly since 2019, when I was falsely accused and charged for treason. And as of 2-3 weeks ago, I was also charged for cybercrime for calling the Inspector General of Police illegal. So I know the court very well. I know the inside and outside of the court. In fact, I know that whenever someone is politically exposed or is a heavy-duty litigant in the place or accused person, they can bring you through the back, through the judge's elevators, a bunch of bank of elevators at the back. So when I was there also last week when Nnamdi Kanu's trial was taking place, I had expressed my concern. I've always expressed my concern that the DSS in particular have no right to take over the premises of the High Court. Not only do they do that, they also take over the job of the Federal High Court officials, including collecting from them what is known as cost lists, which list out all the cases, and then verifying and vetting them, harassing lawyers, harassing other litigants. That happened even 2 weeks ago. And yesterday, clearly, I had to go apply to get my passport back because the judge had asked that I deposit my passport. And when I arrived, I saw them, and I even asked before entering the court premises what was going on, because there was heavy security present, and they said it was Yahaya Bello trial. So I didn't see any big deal about Yahaya Bello's trial for stealing 80 billion naira, and except that they were just showing off. But even that was the case. The court has its own set of security men and women who are composed of DSS, police, and the civil defense people. The court also has its own peculiar security officials who wear light brown and black clothes. So there are plenty of them. But because of impunity, what they do whenever they have these cases, DSS or EFCC, I've never seen the NDLA do it, they'll just brush aside all those people and they start acting as they like within the court premises. And this is despicable, and I've always hated it, because I'm not just somebody who has been present in these courtrooms. I have been abducted within a courtroom before, and the judge's life was threatened by the DSS. So we cannot continue to have impunity reign in our land. We cannot continue to allow people to take laws into their hands because they wear uniform. We can't allow for the desecration of the premises of justice system, the courts. That is why I took it upon myself to address them yesterday as critically as possible, that this would not be allowed again. Of course, you asked, did they accept me to go in? Yes, I was allowed to go in. I went to do my business. And when I came out, they had comported themselves to the extent that I even came out again and got another person in who they had delayed at the gate, who had a business also. That was Speed Darlington. So this is what has been going on in our courts, and it is time not only for the court leadership to address this, but for even the lawyers whose business it is to also freely conduct the activities within the court premises. That is their business center, to ensure that this is discontinued immediately. The harassment of lawyers, litigants, or their families is not something that I should be preaching about. In fact, I had expected that lawyers in Nigeria, when the organization was strong, during Accra Basharons, they would have boycotted the courts over this. These guys are turning our courts into tribunals. If anybody was born during the trial of Ken Saro-Wiwa, this was the kind of things that led to Chief Gani Fawemi and Femi Falana, Olu Douglas and the rest of them, to not continue to defend Ken Saro-Wiwa. Because on one occasion, Chief Gani Fawemi was roughened up by the police at the tribunal. But this is not a tribunal. If they want to be conducting trials in places where they have complete control, they use the conference rooms in their offices at the EFCC. It's very annoying that every Tom, Dick, and Harry that has a gun can just block the entrance of the Federal High Court. Like I saw with the DSM and the EFCC yesterday, and take over the entrance of the High Court and dictate to people who goes in and who doesn't go in. Some of them are senior lawyers. But you know what is interesting? While this was over, I went back to them when I saw Willie Obiano arrive in his own car, and I went to tell them, I said, a thief just drove into the court's premises now. And all of them were saluting him. So it is just completely unacceptable. And I think the problem with us is that we have normalized a lot of abnormal things in this country. And anytime anybody challenges it, people are like so surprised, like, oh, well, how did that happen? You know, I'm not doing it to show off. I'm doing it to make sure that we sanitize our country and that even the justice system that all of us are skeptical about, we can restore some confidence to it. But there's no reason why anybody who has no business within the court premises, who are not certified or trained to do it, will be harassing people within the court premises. One day Boy Scouts will come to, maybe one day two bandits will take over our court premises and determine who goes in and who doesn't go in there.
Now, Mr. Sowore, you mentioned quite a lot, and we also have a senior advocate of Nigeria who's currently live with us, and he's spoken to some of these issues about the way security operatives operate in what you term the business center of the lawyers, which are the courts. Now, your activism and confrontations with security agencies have made you a constant target. Do you ever worry that this approach might put you at greater personal risk? And do you believe it's the only way you could hold the system accountable?
Well, why do you think we are talking about today? It is because somebody rose up and stood up to them. If someone didn't stand up for so many of the rights that we have today, nobody would have so many rights that we freely enjoy today, including democracy, which the senior advocates of Nigeria, Monday Ubani, also knows a lot about. Everybody is at risk when things are done this way, including those who think that they are gentle. And, because yesterday, if you look at the video very well, some lawyer was asking me to calm down. And when we were over, I said, I'm fighting your battles for you, and you're asking me to calm down. Of course, he then confided in me that they've suffered in the hands of DSS in particular, whenever NMDPRA Kanu is brought to court. You know, there's no reason you allow DSS to come and take over an entire city because you want to try one man. And I've told the DSS people several times, if you want to convict NMDPRA Kanu without trial, go and set up a tribunal in your office. You have a nice conference room. Just find one of these federal high court judges to come and convict him, announce it to the world, so that nobody's pretending. Don't you do that at Wawa Barracks? And there's a place they call Wawa Barracks in Niger State where they dump innocent civilians sometimes, and some of them they claim they're Boko Haram. The judges just drive down there, they're paid huge sum of allowances, they go and help them try people summarily without observation from the public, except soldiers. So you can do the same so that you don't pretend that you're looking for justice. But if you are going to carry out a trial in a civilian court, you must understand that it is sacrilege to use military jackboots or police excesses to prevent the business of the courts to smoothly go on. That in itself interferes with fair hearing and justice, because that is why they are called a courtroom. A courtroom has a judge, it has prosecutor, it has the accused person, they have loud witnesses, and there's a gallery. You don't even have it. You have no business explaining to anybody why you are going to court. You can be a carpenter and you have some time you have. You can walk into a courtroom and observe proceedings. It is your right. That is why there is a gallery in the courtroom. And that gallery can be, the only people who have the privilege to sit first are the lawyers. The most senior lawyers sit in front, the juniors, and the rest of the open spaces are available for the public. So what are we arguing about even here over whether I have business? Even if I don't have any business in court, I have a right to work and sit down in the courtroom and observe proceedings going on in court. And by the way, I often do that. In the last 6 years, I don't know how many court proceedings I've gone to or courtrooms I've been to, in which I have no business, I don't have any particular business but to observe trials, and you can call it tribulations of Nigerians.
Okay. Anyway, you've spoken a lot by giving us an insight into this entire story. But let me come back to Dr. Ubani. Dr. Ubani, fingers have been pointed at the judiciary, especially with the recent issues that we've seen come up. There are issues of former governors being taken to court afterwards, and nothing comes out of it. It's part of what we're also going to discuss in the course of our programming today. Do you think the judiciary also needs a reform as we speak? Because Nigerians are worried. They're concerned about the deteriorating situation that's being seen, especially like the one we're talking about. Do you think there should be a reform?
Yeah, there is ongoing conversation, and as I speak to you, even the laws of our judiciary, administration of justice generally, is being reviewed by the current Attorney General of the Federation and the National Assembly. They also want to ensure that we tinker with what is going on presently, slowness of the process, and ensuring that the quality of justice delivered in Nigeria is actually improved upon. There is an ongoing review. But beyond that, you mentioned that most people who are accused are usually let off the hook. I want to say this. The issue of proving criminal liability lies squarely with the prosecution. And most of the times we've been saying it, that the quality of investigation and criminal trial most time in Nigeria is very poor. You know, sensationalism is always the case. Sowore himself, who is there, Mr. President, has always suffered, several trials, but we find out at the end of the day, no substance, and he has always been, the matter has always been discharged, he has been discharged and acquitted. So the quality of investigation goes a long way in actually securing conviction. If you don't do a thorough job, look at the issue of crime, what are the counts? What are the crimes that is alleged to have been committed, and ensure you really go in to get such sufficient evidence with which to convince an impartial judge that this is the offense the individual has committed. If you're unable to do that during investigation, there is nothing that can be done by the prosecution, and there is no way the court can convict any accused person without iota of evidence. So the quality of evidence is key, because it is proved beyond reasonable doubt in criminal trial. If you don't do that, and there is a doubt raised in the mind of a judge based upon the evidence you have presented, then he exercises that doubt in favor of the accused person and gets him released. So that is always the issue. So I am saying we must not allow sectionalism to really occupy our investigative process. I have been advocating for technology and science and technology in investigation. You see what happens in the European countries, and before they rein in an accused person for criminal trial, they would have done 80% of their investigation thorough. They have secured all the facts. They have secured all the evidence. Most time when they rein you in is to ask you whether, after presenting the evidence, whether you are guilty or liable or not. And if you say you want to be tried or you want a plea bargain, they enter into plea bargain with you, because the evidence is so overwhelming. What are you going to go to defend? The lawyer will not even want to defend you in the first place, because they have a system, that the lawyer doesn't anyway mess up the entire system. So I am saying, may our investigating authorities, the security agencies, be a bit more scientific in their approach, in investigation. When they gather quality evidence against an accused person, there is no way the court will free that individual. If the court at the lower court does that, the upper court up to Supreme Court will not allow an individual that there is sufficient evidence to commit that to go scot-free. That's how it works. But most times those trials, the evidence is not strong enough, and there is no way the judge will just go ahead only to please Nigerians and all that. So I must get this person convicted and all that. So trial of Yahaya Bello has commenced. We are watching the proceedings and all that. they must produce sufficient that linking up to the crime that is alleged to have committed. It's very important. Obiano, he also, that you mentioned, also has a similar case going on. So if you don't do your investigation thoroughly, and then come to court in order to, play on the sentiment of the public, there is no way the judge will go ahead and convict any person without sufficient evidence, especially in criminal trial, which I've told you is based upon sufficient evidence.
Okay.
There shouldn't be any doubt in the mind of a judge.
Now, finally, Doctor, we have Mr. Sowore back with us. Just before we let you go, you've always called out police for abuse of power, the men of the Nigerian police force, and beyond social media activism and what you do, are you pursuing any legal channels, or do you have any lobby groups or public policy advocacy groups that would really force the Nigerian police or to reform and look inwards into their practices and be better, be a better police force for the Nigerian people?
If you followed our history and trajectory, you will understand that we've done a lot to reform the police. Up to last week or 2 weeks ago, as I mentioned earlier, I was arrested by the police. And my arrest alone led to about 500 senior policemen to be forced out of the police force. They had apparently tinkered with their service records and age. And since 2017, they've been trying to get rid of them, but my arrest led to all of them falling out of the force. There's still one more person left. That's the IG, who is illegally occupying his position. He hasn't left yet, but we will keep fighting until that place is cleared. We did this with NSAS, and we have organizations that are working on this. With regards to litigation, something I will discuss with my lawyers. My litigation will not be restricted to the police or limited to the police alone. I'm going to assemble a lot of lawyers to litigate against all the people that have carried out torture, unwarranted attacks, false prosecutions against me, and that will include Monday Ubani, SAN. But you guys know my lawyer, Chief Femi Falana. And this will cover the entire gamut of the injustices I've suffered as a citizen. But my goal is not just legal reform, it's to reform the entire country. Say there's judicial justice, but we also need, more importantly than just police reform, the complete overhaul of our system, including political, social, cultural, economic system. And that's what I'm about. This is just one of the branches of our ministry for the revolution.
Anyway, I think we've been able to make something out of this conversation. We've seen the challenges that is being faced, especially by the judiciary. We've also, heard from a senior advocate who says, yes, ongoing reforms will come. I think that's one of the exciting news in this conversation that Nigerians want to take away.
I wanted to jump in that the Nigerian judicial problem has gone beyond reform. Reform is not something that would work. You can't reform things that are not redeemable or reformable. It is beyond that. I just want to put that out there. And we've always had this conversation with Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Monday Ubani. He knows it too. But as a lawyer, he has to be careful what he says to his superiors or inferiors or his colleagues. But it's beyond reform. Yeah, the judicial system is gone, terribly gone.
Well, that's your summation. Mr. Monday Ubani, you have a response to that before we call it a wrap?
No, I don't believe that is not redeemable. I don't believe that is not redeemable. It's redeemable. The most important thing is that if he has worked in other nations, Sowore himself, Mr. President, has, he has been in America for a very long time, and he has seen how the system works. They have been paneled by human beings, with only one head and probably, one brain and all that. So we can't be able to reform our system. But what he's trying to say is that, look, things that work in other nations don't work here. That thing that are abnormal is what is normal here. That is what he's trying to infer. But there is no way we can continue to allow this to go. That is why he's fighting all the fights all along, sometimes at his personal risk. We must change the system. We must not allow abnormality to become normal. It's not proper. We must change our system. And whatever we can do, all of us, collectively, the journalists, the lawyers, the doctors, the professionals, all of us have a role to play in order to have a country that we should be very proud of. What is going on presently is not something somebody should care about. But must it continue? And I said, no, we must change the system and be proud of our nation. This country is a beautiful nation. We cannot allow it to keep on degenerating every day. And that is why he's fighting the fight. And we are also supporting. We are doing our own little bit in our own little corner. So the country is redeemable. That is my conclusion.
Okay, thank you so much, gentlemen. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you both. Thanks for your time and insights. Dr. Mondo Ubani and Mr. Omoyele Sowore, convener of the Revolution Now movement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
You're watching Breakfast Central. Coming up next on Breakfast Central. Full scarcity looms as IPMAN gives federal government ultimatum over 100 billion naira debt. We'll also have the newspaper front pages. What Nigerians are saying. Yes, we'll look at social media to comb what Nigerians are saying. Stay with us.
It's Breakfast Central here on News Central Television. Let's go straight to the front pages. We do have joining us, publisher of the niche newspaper, Mr. Ikechukwu Amici. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Joe, good to see you again. Welcome back from your leave.
Thank you, thank you. It feels good to be back.
I've only been the permanent fixture here. These guys are possible. Oliver Joe.
He's fresh, so we need to
should do the work.
Yes, let's milk him. So anyway, you can be part of the front pages. All you need to do is call the number on the screen, and let's get your feedback, your comments on the stories we'll be taking a look at on the front pages. We're going to start off first with the Guardian newspaper. It has a very, very interesting research that has been done by the people at the Guardian newspaper, and they've taken time to put this out for each and every one of us to see. But let's see what the front page says of the Guardian. It says 53,225 pre-trial detainees languish in jail despite push to pardon politicians. So it's a comparison between, what's happening to politicians. We do see former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello. We also remember former Oyo State Governor as well. Remember all of that that took place. Yes, in the past. Exactly. Compare that to what we have in the prisons. Now, that infographic is one that you shouldn't miss. It says 80,066 persons are in detention already nationwide. Only 34% or 26,841 have been convicted and serving jail terms.
So
there's so much.
To break down that statistics, it means the overwhelming majority of inmates in Nigerian prisons are awaiting trial.
Yes.
It's also part of the judicial system we're talking about.
Absolutely. El Rufai threatens to dump APC over lack of internal democracy, rules out PDP move. Tinubu considers committee for fresh census. This census, I like Mr. Ikechukwu to look at this carefully. I do have a question for you concerning this census. It has to do with the fact that, maybe I should just say it and we go straight into it. The fact that just last 2 years, let's say it should be about 3 years ago, former President Muhammadu Buhari had set up a team to indeed ensure that they kick off the census. I do recall here on Breakfast Central that we did have some of the NYC, in quotes, the coppers, who were being taken into that team. They were being trained. Equipment were being bought. They did get some equipment. They were training them on how to use the equipment, how they would go from door to door and speak to persons, and a huge sum that was already invested into it. And all of a sudden, everything went into a state of comatose, and nothing happened again. What's your take on the census, the new committee being set up?
Well, the issue of census has always been a controversial one in this country. Of course, the last census was how many years ago? 19 years ago. And we were supposed to have census at least every 10 years. The idea of the census is not that it is not just an exercise. It's an exercise that must be done so that it will aid you in national planning. You ought to know how many Nigerians there are, if you know how many Nigerians there are, where they are, it will help you in planning how to distribute the resources, the infrastructure, and everything. It will help make for effective governance. But like everything we've done in this country, we've found ourselves in a situation where something as basic as knowing how many we are has been so politicized that since the 1960s, there's no census that has been accepted across board as being honest, legitimate, and therefore we continue having this issue. Of course, Jonathan wanted to have a census and appointed the former managing director of Nigerian Breweries, says Festus Odimegwu. Of course, Festus made a comment, which is basically what I've said now, that there's never been a true census in this country. The then governor of Kano State, Kwakwanso, had to give Jonathan an ultimatum that unless Festus Odimegwu is sacked, and of course Odimegwu was sacked, and that scuttled it. Buhari came on board and said he was going to organize a census. As at last year, when, as at 2023, when that move was stalled, we were told that already 200 billion naira has been spent, put into the project. Now, they called it off on the schools that you can't be having a census the same year that they're going to have elections, and therefore that it will be better not to leave it for the incoming administration. Now, Tinubu is there, again promising us that he's going to have a census. The question to ask is if they will have the political will, because it all boils down to political will. We now have tools that could be used in effectively counting Nigerians, the number of Nigerians there are. There are some biometric techniques that can be deployed in knowing who is where, but you know, because in a country where resources are distributed on the basis of population, all we see is that at the end of the day, everybody is jostling to inflate the number of people there are in his or her own region. Those in the north will want to continue this belief that has been there, that there are more people in the north than there are in the south. The southeast, that used to be one of the three major ethnic nations, all of a sudden, the southeast is being reduced to a minority in the country now. And it is all part of the politics of the census, debilitating politics that does not take into account the major reason for why we should know how many Nigerians there are. So I just hope and pray that President Tinubu will muster the political will to see to an end, a conclusive end, that we this time count ourselves honestly, so as to bring out a figure that people can see. Don't forget, after the last lesson, even Lagos State took it upon themselves to do their own census to know how many people there are in Lagos. So I hope we don't get to that level again, where every state will be forced to also carry out its own census, because nobody is going to believe what comes out of the census conducted by the federal government. I just hope and pray that even if this is the only thing President Tinubu sees through, that he should be able to conduct a national census that will be credible, that people can say, okay. Now, every day you hear all manner of figures. Now, some say Nigerians are 200 million people, some say it is 220, some even have gone as high as telling us that we are now 240 million. And all these things are estimations. Nobody can say really how many Nigerians there are, and it doesn't make sense. Tinubu should see this to a conclusive end, must make sure that the census works. That's my take on it.
Well, very deep, very incisive there. Let's look at another one very quickly before we go to the next paper. Tinubu task National Assembly, we've taken that. Tinubu considers committee for fresh census. Tinubu task National Assembly on workable tax law. That's the one we've also seen. But let's leave the Guardian now. Let's go to another newspaper. Let's do the Nigerian Tribune. Nigerian Tribune has on front page there, APC has left me, El Rufai cries out. It says Tinubu not Senate rejected his ministerial nomination, false implementation of president's economic policies, hints of possibility of joining another political platform, and then rules out PDP. Well, Aiyedatiwa sworn as Ondo governor. Please begin probe as residents claim 22 killed in Edo clashes. And why Nigerian, anyway, that's a Nigerian Tribune story. Let's also look at one last one before we go to you. Tax reform bills, future of Nigeria, Senate President. Let's take a look at this, the tax reform bills. The Senate had a plenary just yesterday, and the Senate President was talking tough where he said that Nigerians want good hospitals, roads, and so on, but they have refused to pay their taxes. I don't know what you think about that statement.
I don't want to bother myself with what Akpabio says.
Okay, but forgetting Akpabio, we have one of the lowest tax to GDP ratios in Africa.
Agreed. But the truth of the matter is that what does the Nigerian state offer the citizens that should spur you to pay your tax, as it were? The issue is that, for me, I think it is an egg and chicken kind of debate. Which one should come first? If Nigerians know that at the end of the day, when you pay your tax, you will get, the state will provide you what the state ought to provide you. I'm not too sure that a lot of people will need a lot of persuasion to go and pay their tax. But where you pay your tax and you find out that it has been embezzled, and the political class, those in the leadership cadre in this country, continue getting fat when they are telling you to tighten your belt. You provide your own water, you dig a borehole, you provide schools for your children, hospital you provide for yourself, the medical services you pay, you even build roads, you contribute money to build roads wherever you live, and you also provide your own security. What does the government really do for the people that Akpabio is talking about? Akpabio lives, in fact, in the last 25 years or thereabout, because when we started this democracy in 1999, Akpabio was first a commissioner in Akwa Ibom State before he became a governor. After the governorship, he went to the Senate, then went to the Senate, and then couldn't come back for a second term and became a minister. Now he is back in the Senate and is the country's #3 citizen. He's the Senate president. He has a convoy that is longer than that of, in fact, he has a convoy that is longer than River Niger. And you ask yourself, what does Akpabio contribute in terms of in real terms to Nigeria, that he gets disproportionately what he takes out of the country? And this is a man who is talking about Nigerians not paying taxes and they expect the government to do all for them. The government pays his bill, has been paying his bill in the last 25 years. So I am all for tax. People should pay tax because there's no other way in any country that wants to develop. It is the taxes, and it is because of the people pay taxes that are used for development that you can now look up to your government and say, be accountable. But here, the government is not responsible to the people.
And you're right, like you mentioned hospitals and all of that. I recall I was hosting an event and they were talking about taxes. And one of the keynote speakers talked about a gentleman that was from Sweden. He lost his father at a very young age. And in Sweden, it's almost sacrilegious. It's a thing of shame for you not to pay your tax. And he said, you know, they pay high taxes, but they never felt the absence of their father. The state took care of them. And it never felt like there was no father figure in the house. They didn't lack for one moment. That's because of the collective good and because of paying taxes. That's for a system that works, a system where there's verifiable empirical evidence of what your taxes are doing for you. Look at Lagos, for example. The highest IGR in Nigeria, more than 21 states combined. But you drove down here and you drive at night, no street lights. The streets are almost like the streets of Baghdad. It's quite sad.
Look, Benga, like you said, in countries, particularly the Scandinavian countries, Norway, Sweden, and all that, you don't even need to persuade anybody to pay tax because the people know where the money is going to and what the people, the leaders, are doing with the money, if it in terms of education of your children or whatever. So when our governments become responsible, look, in a country where there is no difference between public and private purse, all the governors are behaving like emperors, no accountability, and at the end of the day, nobody is called to account for how you have used the resources of the people, and you expect the people to simply continue bringing out their money to fund private consumption of those who are called upon to superintend. It's a sad one. I am all for the paying of taxes, but I think it is also high time that the government showed us in real terms what those monies are used for and how they are deployed. The issue now is that even they go and borrow money in our name. And at the end of the day, Buhari told us that he got us back into the debt hole because he was building infrastructure. 2 years down the road, where are the infrastructure that Buhari said he constructed?
Can be found.
Where are the roads?
It can be found. Very quickly. Very quickly, I'd like us to look at the Punch before we wrap things up. There's a big story on the front page of the Punch. Miranda may step down as a candidate panel shortlist 7. What's your take on this?
My take on this is that it goes back to what I've always argued, that there's no democracy in this country. What we have is not the rule of law, it is the rule of strong men. So what has happened in Lagos State is that the impeachment of the former speaker, Obasa, which was legal, constitutional. Obasa said that he went to court now because that the process was illegal. Yet, as we speak, Obasa has not been able to tell anybody what constitutes an illegality.
The courts will decide.
In the process that took him out. Now, after all manner of maneuverings to the extent that last week the DSS invaded and locked up all the offices. Miranda has been so harassed that she even broke down and wept uncontrollably. The only reason why this thing is going on is that the leader, and the leader, the man who owns Lagos is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The impeachment did not go down well with him. If it did, who is Obasa, and who are the members of the GSC, the president still calls the shot in Lagos. He has not taken off his eyes off the politics of Lagos. So I don't know whether they are going to forcefully get out Miranda. I understand that now part of the reason why they want her out is because she also comes from the same zone where the governor comes from, and therefore,
how do these things even matter in the grand scheme of things?
Are we not in a country where the president and the vice president are all Muslims? So but the truth of the matter is that what has led to this impasse that we have, look, in a House of Assembly of about 40 members, we had 36 came and say, this is our speaker. And how many weeks down the road, the same 36 came and passed a vote of confidence in the speaker. So what is democracy all about, if not it is what the people want? The members of the House of Assembly overwhelmingly say this is our speaker, and people outside there are determining who the speaker is and who
non-elected people.
Look, we don't have a democracy, so-called, in this country, and unless and until we begin to build the rule of law and not the rule of strong men, people who control fiefdoms, political fiefdoms, I don't think this democracy will go too far.
Well, well said. We've been able to touch on these papers this morning. If you have any conversation that you'd like to start off with what we just looked at in terms of the front pages, you might want to do the rest right there on the social media space. Thank you so much, Mr. Ikechukameji, for being here with us on this Tuesday morning.
Thank you, Joe. I saw that you guys did not talk about the El Rufai bombshell yesterday, but that's okay.
Yeah, I mean,
he's always talking. I'm sure the next time you're here, we'll have said something.
All right, we'll go on a break. When we come back, we'll talk about IPMAN. There seems to be fuel scarcity looming. We'll find out every single thing you need to know about it in a moment.
You're welcome back to Breakfast Central. Nigeria is facing a potential nationwide petrol scarcity as the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria has given a 7-day ultimatum to the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA, to pay 100 billion naira in bridging claims. IPMAN's chairman, Yahaya Bello, expressed frustration over the government's failure to clear the debt despite promises made many days ago.
Well, now, here's what we know about the situation. The situation has already taken a toll on northern depots, with 9 major depots, including those in Jos, Gusau, and Kano, completely grounded due to the debt. IPMAN has also criticized the NMDPRA for imposing a 5% levy on petrol marketers, which they deem anti-developmental and unconstitutional. Well, these are some of the things that you should know as well. But let's tell you that in a related update, by the way, fuel tanker drivers in some parts of the nation have reportedly stopped fuel loading over allegations of harassment by officials of the Lagos State government and the Federal Ministry of Transportation. That's not all. Let's also tell you that the national president of the Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners, Yusuf Uthman, said members of his association were often beaten and harassed by government officials for no known reason. For some, we hear that it's got to do with a settlement like they say, owo something, maybe owo lodin and the likes. But let's thrash all of this right now in few minutes that we do have left on the program. We do have joining us the Publicity Secretary of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association, Mr. Okadike Chinedu, joins us this morning. Should Nigerians start filling up their tanks, and should we start buying in those kegs, 10 liters,
in anticipation of this looming scarcity?
Yes. Should we start doing that right away?
Please, good morning, Nigerians. Please, I didn't get the question.
I said, should we start preparing? Should we start anticipating another fuel strike? Since the Petroleum Tankers Association is saying that they might be going on strike, should we start preparing? Should we fill our tanks? Should we get our kegs filled and so on?
Well, I want to reassure Nigerians that Nigerians are not going to take a toll again on the issue of queuing in the filling stations, suffering, getting fuel, because there is abundance of fuel everywhere. But the issue that is before us, the burning issue before us, is this incessant harassment of our tanker drivers on the road. It's not only in Lagos. It's just that the Lagos zone decided to take a drastic action and also ensure that government will listen to their plight and call to other members of LASMA who uninterruptedly, rudely, invade tanker drivers with touch. And by doing so, some of these tanker drivers lose their personal properties and all the rest of them. So they are wholly out on tanker drivers, and these people are on essential duty. Whatever happened to any tanker driver or trucks in Nigeria will definitely lead to unnecessary and unwarranted scarcity, where government has fully implemented the regulation to ensure that citizenry get fuel at any particular point in time. So this menace caused by these overzealous government officials who doesn't even know how to go about doing their jobs, decided to clamp on tankers wherever they see them and go and pack them for days, asking for exorbitant amount of money and unnecessary intimidation, and even including beating them. So that is why the Lagos zone decided to say, no, we cannot continue to be suffering like this. We cannot continue to watch this kind of menace on our people, because those tanker drivers are also breadwinners of their family. Most of them, after coming back from work, they come back with injuries, and the union does not like this kind of unnecessary harassment. And this is all over the nation. It's all over in Lagos. Before you take your truck to Maiduguri or to Aba, all the police checkpoint, they will stop you and ask you for 1 liter of petroleum product from your truck. And by the time you get to your destination, you will find out that you will be having shortages and have problem with your managing director. Either you are being fired or that amount of money deducted from your salary. So we cannot allow our tanker drivers continue to suffer this kind of this. When we have government that can be able to intervene on this matter, I see how these issues will be resolved. The issue of security agencies and all these overzealous government officials clapping on tanker drivers and all the rest of it leads to unnecessary accident and spillage of the truck. And what this kind of a thing happen?
Now, Chief Ukadike, you've spoken quite well about the grievances of your association's members, and rightly so too. But the Lagos state government is saying, look, we don't want the Lekki-Epe corridor to end up being like Apapa. We all know the situation in Apapa. So the Lagos state government is also insisting that it's simply enforcing the e-collop system to regulate truck movement and prevent congestion. Do you believe this system is necessary, or it's unfairly targeting petroleum transporters?
Well, one particular thing is to enact a policy. Another one is the implementation of that policy. When you enact a policy without a consultation with those policies will affect. They become deviant about that policy. Once the government is making laws, you should make sure that those who are making this law participate in that law, or even contribute to that law you want to enact, so that they can be able to give you a better advice or a better insight on what you are about doing. You can't just wake up morning and enact law without collaborating with the people, without getting input from those people, and you now want to enforce that law. The law will become very, very strange. Even if the law is positive to their own business, but they will not understand the intricacies and the aftermath of that law. So you don't just say you wake up in the morning as government. What is government? Government must take input from the people. Government must listen to the people. Government must look at all the parentheses before they make their laws. You don't just make, tomorrow morning nobody should go out. And you believe that everybody will stay at home. Some people will still go and look for what they have to eat with their family. So I'm not against the law. It is the implementation of this law. It is how this law comes about. That is what we are talking about. If you say the policy is good for the tanker drivers, let them be part of it.
Yeah, Mr. Kadike, I mean, let's quickly touch on one of the very important aspects of this conversation as we were winding down. It was said that NMDPRA seems to be owing 100 million naira. And there were statements made when there was a joint meeting held alongside the NSA and others who sat down, and the monies were promised to have been to be paid. Yes, 100 billion naira. The monies were promised to be paid shortly. Now you've given an ultimatum, which is just 1 week. It expires next week. How certain are you that that money would be paid? And if it's not paid, should we expect strike or something?
Well, strike is normally our last option, and ultimatum is another way of withdrawing government attention on some certain issues we want them to deal with drastically. NMDPRA inherited this particular money from PEF, Petroleum Equalization Fund. I want to also let you know there's no more PEF. PEF has been scrapped by the PIA and this deregulation policy. So the money in question was the money inherited from PEF, Petroleum Equalization Fund, when government is subsidizing transportation of petroleum products from rather the west depot to a dry depot, or a longer distance that is necessary, that requires a kind of subsidy in terms of the transportation movement or the logistics. But now, this money was inherited by NMDPRA, and we went for a meeting when marketers, we all complained that this money has been long overdue, in as much as we have given people time to transmit from PEF to NMDPRA. That's enough time for you to look at this money and pay us, because marketers are really suffering. But I also want to let you know that within this period under it, the management of NMDPRA has been paying this money in line with the contribution of DAPMAN members, MEMAN members. These are the people who are contributing this money to ensure that this money is being paid to marketers. So once they receive this money, because they also complain that they have not received substantial amount of this money from MEMAN and DAPMAN members, and whatever they receive, they will pay. I also know that they have been paying them. But with this ultimatum and also this meeting that was held by our members, the chairman of all the 21 depots in Nigeria, NMDPRA will definitely look into this matter and see how it's going to be resolved. But I also want to reassure you that as the spokesman of IPMAN, we like dialogue. We don't like suffering the masses, because once we go on strike, masses will suffer. The last thing we will do is going to strike. It's only when some of these demands are not being met that you see that IPMAN members will go on strike. Because I know that our services are very, very essential to Nigeria, and the adverse effect will lead to walloping inflation.
All right. Thank you so much for clearing that, so Nigerians can heave a sigh of relief. Just take your time. Don't use your last money to fill your tank. Make sure you eat first and take care of your health.
You have that assurance for both.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Kadike, for speaking with us, and we'll talk to you real soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right. Let's bring to you what Nigerians are saying on a very, very interesting topical issue right here. So what are Nigerians saying this morning, especially right from yesterday, a few hours back? Well, it's got to do with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, on Monday, February 24, 2025, presented its first witness against the former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, who is facing a 19-count charge by the EFCC bordering on criminal breach of trust, money laundering to the tune of 80.2 billion naira, contrary to Section 18A and punishable under Section 15, subsection 3 of the Money Laundering Prohibition Act 2011 as amended. Well, the witness came up yesterday. The witness by name, Shegu Joseph Abeleke, General Manager of EFAP Properties Limited, appeared before Justice Emeka Nwite of the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja and kind of like, exonerated the former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, showing documents that he owned no property, and therefore the case was further adjourned. But Nigerians were following this story closely, especially with what happened to, talking about Sowore, who actually was in the same premises and decided to do that video. That gave more light, threw more light into the incident, and Nigerians were, wait. That means Yahaya Bello is also in court, and that, diverted the attention to that particular case, which is the Yahaya Bello's case. But let's see how netizens were reacting and how they're reacting up until now concerning the case. Let's start off with our first tweet and show to you what they're saying. Alfred Ajileya happens to be the first there. He says, as long as my ex-governor, yes, he calls him my ex-governor, Yahaya Bello, paid upfront 800 million naira for his 5 primary school children and allegedly stole, he used the word allegedly, stole over 80 billion naira. Brothers, 400,000 naira minimum, not the least for federal government. Do you understand what he said? Well, if you do, you might also get where he's going. He's saying that means that money was too huge. Nigerians should not be settling for 70,000 naira minimum wage. Delis says, trial how? Someone that should be sent direct to Kirikiri prison. Anyway, he has already paid his dues to you guys. This is just a formality. So I can state here categorically that a cross-section of Nigerians on social media do not believe in the trial. They call it just a show-off, in other words. But Delhi says it's just formality, it's not real. Let's see someone else who's talking and see what they're saying. Well, Sunday Truck says, I hope this trial is not just for show. We need real accountability and justice, not just a spectacle. He also falls under that percentage of Nigerians who don't believe that this is real. That's what he says. Says it's just for show. Anyway, whether it's a spectacle or not, we'll get to find out. Frederick Omoyoma Odorige says, if Yahaya Bello donates some of the money he stole to APC, he could become a minister. Nothing will happen to him after that. Do you believe that? Well, this is going by some antecedents and situations that are quite similar that we've seen where persons have also said that if you move to a certain political party, your sins are forgiven. Well, that's from Frederick. He's saying even if he moves, nothing will happen to him. Let's see another tweet very quickly. Esparte says, make sure you give him the Emefiele treatment. And this is very key. This tweet is very strong, and I must say, while responding to the EFCC's press release, he goes ahead to say that he should get the same treatment because we do know what's happening to Emefiele. And truly, if you must treat situations that's got to do with embezzlement, that's got to do with money laundering, that's got to do with fraud, it has to be consistent. El Comandante says, considering that Yahaya Bello was the youngest governor in his time, he should have been a poster for young people in politics. And unfortunately, he failed to honor a simple official EFCC invitation. So this goes back to who Yahaya Bello should have been, possibly a mentor for the young ones, an icon, so to say, looking forward to become governors as well. And we'll take our very last tweet this morning. Let all hands be on deck to curb embezzlement of public funds in Nigeria. May God Almighty bless official EFCC. Amen. So Elite Fame is praying for the EFCC, just like many other Nigerians. But my data here shows very clearly that close to about 60% of Nigerians do not believe in the trial. 20% believe that it's nothing but a show of shame. And of course, the rest do not agree at all that it should actually go to trial. It should just be prosecuted, especially since there's enough proof. But that's all we're taking on what Nigerians are saying, Bega.
Interesting takes there. You're right. Like a lot of people feel the EFCC sensationalizes the arrest and the announcement. They're more into, we've arrested this big wig, and people start talking, yes, you're doing a good job. But what we want to see is convictions, not the drama and all of that. And how do you bring a witness that should be helping your case? The witness is helping the other person's case. I mean, I like that last prayer from Elfric. God bless EFCC.
Yeah, it's a lot. But anyway, you can follow us on socials. You'd find our social media handles there on the screen. And you can also continue the conversation on all the stories that we've talked about in the past 2 hours. Tomorrow is another day. Make sure you join us for midweek edition of Breakfast Central. Je m'appelle Joe Hansen.
And I'm Benga Baroa.